Welcome everybody. We've got a stream today, and this is a Chocolatey Community Coffee Break live stream. We do this a little differently from the other live stream that we do in the first Thursday of the month. So we talk about the community, the Chocolatey community, and we talk about that on the third Thursday of every month. And obviously today is the third Thursday. We're the 18th of August. So in 11 years since Chocolatey was born, the community has grown to become a huge part of what we do here at Chocolatey. Before I introduce my co-host today, my ever faithful co-host, Gary, I want to introduce myself first of all. So my name is Paul Broadwith, and I'm the Technical Engineering Manager here at Chocolatey Software. And Gary, do you want to introduce yourself?
I can certainly try. So my name is Gary Ewan Park. I am a senior software engineer here at Chocolatey. I have been doing this for a while now, in the sense that I've worked full-time for Chocolatey since January 2018. But prior to that, I was also involved in what was and what still is the Chocolatey community. So that's where I started. That's where I started using Chocolatey personally, and then that evolved into my full-time job. So yeah, happy to be here and to talk to our guest who's going to come on soon.
Yeah, so I was just about to say that. Today we've got Manfred Warner with us, all the way from Austria. Manfred is incredibly busy at the moment. I won't go into more details than that. So we really appreciate him taking the time out just now to spend some time with us. So Manfred's been a member of the community for some time. Manfred, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hey folks. So my name is Manfred. I'm from Austria. I'm a software developer. I've been in automotive industry, working for a company called Case Engineers for the last 10 plus 11 years or so. Yeah, long time Chocolatey user, and yeah, happy to be here. Happy to have a short break.
Awesome. Again, thank you for your time today, Manfred. Really appreciate it. But before we jump into asking Manfred some questions, so we've got a set of questions for Manfred. He does know what those questions are. We've also asked for questions from the community. We've asked for questions either in the AMA questions channel in our Discord, our community Discord. We also sent out a link to a form on Twitter, so we may have some questions there as well. And you can obviously ask questions in our Twitch channel and in our YouTube channel as well, where hopefully you're watching on one of those. If you're watching later on, then obviously you can't ask questions because we won't have seen them. But yeah, if you like what we're doing today, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you don't like what we're doing today, give us a thumbs down and let us know why, so that we can tailor the content to what all of you want to see. So yeah, we're going to jump into some questions for Manfred, and I'm going to just kick that off with the kind of usual one. Manfred, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? You know, where do you come from? I mentioned Austria, and what you actually do. You mentioned you work for Case Engineers.
Yeah, so I'm responsible for a lot of the internal tooling and developer tooling, build servers, setups, and automation, so internal automation. And yeah, this is obviously where Chocolatey and PowerShell comes in really handy. So yeah, been doing a lot of internal automation. In my past, I've been like educated Java developer, but I've switched to doing mostly C++ and now PowerShell stuff for like full time for a living.
Awesome. Okay.
My turn.
I was going to say,
you're ready for the hard questions now.
Just to be clear, myself and Gary are going to be good cop, bad cop. I'm not sure who's going to be who, but yeah, Gary, we're going to ask a question each. So Gary, on you go.
So the question that I have for you to get started with is, so what brought you to IT? Was that what, because I know for me, I mean, I kind of fell into doing IT and doing programming. It's not what I set out to do. So was that your career path from the get-go?
Well, actually, both my parents are teachers, and they both did a lot of IT stuff in the past, and I basically always got to play around with the old computers my dad didn't use anymore. So I started off with a C64, but it's been pretty late. So it's been when basically Win95 was around. So I've been doing is I've been playing around with the C64, then a bit, and my first real proper PC was, I think, Windows 98 second edition or so. So I'm too young for all that DOS stuff and what you guys have been through. But yeah, I've been playing around with computers since kindergarten, and yeah, never really, yeah, I liked it, so I kept.
I think you think I'm older than I am. I didn't get involved in DOS either. That's well before my time.
To me,
I think he might be.
My first computer was a ZX81. Then I had with 1K of RAM. Then I had a Commodore 16, 64, Atari ST, and then moved on to PCs. And my first PC was DOS 4. And then DOS 5, and then Windows 3.1.1. So yeah, I've been through them all. OS2 Warp I still have and I love. So yeah, I like all these old operating systems. What that really says is that it's me that's old, not Gary. Although Gary is old. Gary looks older than me.
I can say I had a C64, but I used it predominantly for games. I didn't know that there was this thing called programming back in the day. I literally played Dizzy the Egg on it, and that was about it. That's all I did on my Commodore 64. So
programming was what you typed in for the magazines. That was
programming was load enter to load it from the cassette deck. That's what it was.
I actually wrote a little game on the Commodore 16 a way back called Hambo. Believe it or not, it was like Rambo, but it was a hamster instead of actually Rambo. So it was called Hambo. Yeah, it was just a little okay. So that's one of those things that when they do an interview and say, tell us one thing that nobody else knows. That's nobody else knows that. So it's now out in the interwebs and everybody knows that now. So Manfred, you never wrote any games called Hambo when you were on?
No, I just thought of the first computer program I wrote, and it's basically, I think it was really bad version of tic-tac-toe. And I remember it was in Borland Delphi 6 back in like 2004 maybe or so. So with 14, 15 years, I really started like doing programming stuff. And I started off with Delphi, but switched to Java pretty early. So yeah.
I remember using Borland Turbo C. That's where I started way back. So this is nostalgia. This is great. Let's ditch the questions. I want to just talk about this for the rest of the stream. This is awesome. Okay, no, we have to get through the questions, so that's cool. Okay, so we've done all the nostalgia. We've made it clear that Gary is not as old as me, but certainly looks older than me. So that bit we've cleared up, and I think we've got a consensus there of that. When did you come across Chocolatey, and how did it happen?
So as I mentioned earlier, I'm doing a lot of internal automation and tooling at work. And at one point, we got this really powerful new machines for both developers and also build servers. And let's put it this way: to set up a development box or a build server took quite some time, because we had these huge manuals of this and that had to be installed, configured properly so everything works, and it was just time consuming. And we did, whenever we set up a PC, we created an image of it, and then we were able to reapply this image to a lot of other hosts. But requirements and features changed basically on a, let's say, weekly basis, and so all these old images were rotting away. And yeah, this is where I looked around for a possibility to solve this problem and stumbled across Chocolatey, because I've been, at this point in time, I've been using Linux for like my daily driver for a long time, and I had like box setup scripts based on, I think it's been Pacman for a pretty long time. So I use Arch, by the way. And yeah, so I've been basically searching for a package manager like I've been using on Linux for a very long time, but on Windows. And if you literally type in apt-get for Windows, Chocolatey was the first thing that popped up. It was a pretty early version, but it's not been, I haven't been there for like the initial PowerShell version of Chocolatey, but I've been there for 0.9.7 or so. So it's, yeah, back in 2015, 16 somewhere.
That's a actually brings up something that a lot of people don't know. The initial version of Chocolatey was actually written in Persia. Gary, do you remember when that changed? It was 0.9 something, wasn't it? 0.91 or 0.9?
I could find it in the release notes, but
I'm sure it was a 0.9. There wasn't too many versions released, I don't think, in the Persia version. But how? So you just found? So you were searching for something, Manfred, to solve the problem that you had, and you found Chocolatey from there. You didn't get introduced to it by someone or anything like that.
No, basically, really, I was looking for a solution for the problem at hand. I was looking for a package manager for Windows, and at this time, Chocolatey was really the only option.
Okay.
It
probably, and to be fair, it probably still is.
Yeah.
The only option. But and you're still using Chocolatey today, where you work. So I mean, it stood the test of time there.
Yes.
Yeah, and you've put a lot of engineering time and effort into using Chocolatey, and we'll talk about later on Box Starter as well, in order to help continue to solve those problems that you meet at work. Yeah. How much do you? I mean, that's just. I was going to say, how much time do you think it saved you? That's probably a silly question. But is it fair to say that Chocolatey saved you a considerable amount of time?
Yes, definitely. So just think about, you have to like keep, let's say, 50 boxes up to date with new configuration, new software, and have it like have changes in a version controlled manner. And one of the key requirements is that you, at any point of time, you want to recreate like a host setup from 2 months ago, because something changed and you need to troubleshoot it. And if you have your packages and versions pinned nicely or pinned correctly, then you just can spin up a VM or a new host and install a certain version of a package. And with all the dependencies of this package, I like to call it like a meta package. So every development host, every build server in our environment basically got all of the dependent packages pinned in with a fixed version. And then you basically can, at any point of time, can go there and reinstall like a past version of this box. Yeah, so that's like one of the main features that we really liked. Also, when you add in Box Starter, you can like fully automate the setup. So if you think about, you have to install 100 packages, which is not that uncommon. And a lot of these packages are like things that need Windows updates and stuff. And if you do install a lot of these packages, your PC has to restart a lot of times before everything's installed. And with Box Starter, you can solve this problem. So the PC will reboot automatically whenever it needs. And yeah, you can basically go grab a coffee or 10, because if you install a lot of like Visual Studio packages and what's not, a host setup can also, a fully automated host setup on a powerful machine can take like 2 hours, where if you did everything manually, you would most likely take you a day or two. And yeah, so it definitely saved a lot of time.
That was quite interesting when you said that you can, because you pinned the versions of the packages, you can effectively, if you have an issue, you can effectively rebuild the state of that box, whichever one had the issue, and go in and troubleshoot that issue.
It's not so common on development boxes, but if you think about build servers, and it's like more likely that you will meet this kind of requirement.
So I mean, that's something we don't talk a lot about Chocolatey, is that consistent, reliable process of being able to install packages, and in this case, it sounds like a lot of it's software, in order to get a system to a known state.
So I can't. Chocolatey is really good at managing packages. When it comes to managing state, there's probably better tools for this. But Chocolatey, because it's all in PowerShell, can do many things without the requirement of introducing things like Ansible or Puppet or Chef or so. These are all great tools, and I would highly recommend everyone to go and have a look at Ansible. But Chocolatey alone, if you do the dependencies correctly, can save you a lot of time.
And there is a Win Chocolatey module as well, the Chocolatey Ansible collection, where we have that for Ansible. We do one for Puppet as well, and Chef. So yeah, what was meaning when I said state is I meant like the software state. But you're right. There are things that do specific jobs and make it a machine at a particular state. That would be those configuration managers that you mentioned. Gary, did you manage to find the version that?
I think I found it. I think it was 099, which was back in 2015.
Okay.
I think it's that one. If I've read it properly, I was just skimming it, but yeah, I think it is the right one. It's talking about moving issues from the old repository over to this one, so I think it's that one. It's in that era, anyways, that 2015 era of when it switched over to Chocolatey.exe.
I'm sure it was a 0.9 version, so yeah, that sounds about right. So awesome. So that was some time ago. Okay, Gary, do you want to jump on to the next one?
Yeah. So in terms of, I guess we could call it direct community contributions, when was the first issue that you created on a Chocolatey Chocolate repository, or the first PR that you created? It doesn't have to be chocolate, obviously. It could be, we've got lots of products there. So where did you first get involved?
So actually, the first thing, I looked it up earlier, the first thing I created a pull request for was for Chocolatey GUI.
Good stuff.
Yeah, good stuff. So the first two, three. So I did my first pull request back in 2016, and the very first thing I did was fix an issue or provide a draft implementation to fix an issue where only the first couple of packages would show up if you typed in a search, and there was some integer double rounding issue. So in 2016 to Chocolatey GUI, and I think my first proper code contribution besides that was when I also in Chocolatey GUI added the localization for the German language. So because of reasons, some people wanted to have a German version of a product before we could use it widely across the company. And yes, so therefore I went in and said, hey, there's this German version available now. Can we please go and use it? Which luckily worked.
I think German was the first localization as well for Chocolatey GUI, wasn't it? Because it was it was something that I think at the time it was Richard Simpson who was kind of maintaining that project.
Yeah.
And I think I'm right in saying it was set up so it could be localized, but there was nothing other than American English.
If you take a look at the PR, I basically had to go through all of the SAML files, and yeah, so this, where is it? GH170 in Chocolatey GUI. It was in January 2017. So I had to go through all of the SAML files, and yeah.
It was you that created the first resx, which is the basis of the localization. Wow. Okay. It's no small undertaking, because that's a lot of time consuming. This is something that needs to be localized. Bring it into the resource file, backwards, forwards. Yeah. No, absolutely. At the time, though, we weren't using, or were we? Were we using Transifex at that point, or is that something that came after again?
I think it came in a couple of months later.
Okay.
We set it up because of because we added localization.
Nice. So for those that don't know, so Transifex is a online service that we use as a website that allows us to much more easily translate a set of resource files. It gives you a nice web interface where you define what is the base language, and then you can request or you can join a team that's specifically translating into a specific language. So there's quite a few in there now. It would be it was one of those things that was always nice. It's a great thing to have it localized into different languages, even if it's not complete. Having the first top level pages translated into different languages, it's always great to see. And one of the most recent changes that we put in was the ability to dynamically switch the chosen language as well. So if you don't want the default system language, you can choose another one now as well. So it's a great addition. It was good to see that you started that work off. Yeah, good stuff.
I posted that link into the chat, and if you're watching this on YouTube later on, I'll post the link in the description below. So Manfred, so you created your first pull request. Did you start being active in the community at that time? Because back then we used Getter. Was it another time?
Well, it depends. I think prior to that, I've been using Gitter for quite some time. I'm mostly chatting with Rob or Gary, I think. I've been using Gitter, and I was very happy when we moved to Slack, and much more happy when we moved to Discord not so long ago.
You'll probably be pleased to hear that I think it was earlier this week I removed all of the Gitter rooms. They were kind of in read-only mode for quite some time. Well, people were still using them, but they're now all gone. So happy days from that. We weren't a fan of the Gitter interface. Maybe one of two of the team was. I don't know who they were if that was the case. And I wouldn't speak to them if I did, because Gitter was horrible. And we weren't. You liked it then, Gary? Did you?
So I like the simplicity of it. The thing for me, typically most folks who were interested in getting involved in the community, doing some work on, say, one of the GitHub repositories, because of the integration, if you had a GitHub account, you were in Gitter already. You didn't have to go off and get an invitation or to join a Slack group or anything like that. It was just you were in Gitter. It was there. And the initial kind of integrations with GitHub issues and being able to link to issues and all that sort of stuff, it was really good. But then they started to struggle when they got to the kind of threaded conversation models, all that sort of stuff. It just didn't seem like it wasn't keeping up. But for the kind of first jump up from IRC, Gitter was a great jump up on that. So depending how far back we're wanting to go.
Have you been using IRC up until this time?
I missed the whole IRC thing as well. I'm not that old. I didn't use it, or I wasn't in the right communities to use it. So Gitter was really my first kind of distributed chat system that I was making use of.
Really? I thought you were on MSN Messenger.
Oh, well, if you go that, well, that's true. I did have MSN Messenger. Yes, that's fair. I didn't do the AOL Messenger. Didn't do AOL Messenger, but I did MSN Messenger back in the day. Yes.
What was the other messenger that everybody used?
ICQ. I had a 6-digit ICQ number.
Yeah. Yes.
I have ICQ. I think I did have ICQ. I couldn't tell you what it was now though, but
I had a 6-digit ICQ number, which was like really early.
That was some time ago. I remember IRC. I did use IRC a little bit, Usenet, although it's still around, but back then when it was actually used for useful things. And something called FidoNet, if people want to look that up. That's very old. And something called Netmail, but that's gone back.
That's quite close to like carrier pigeons, isn't it? Is that kind of level we're talking about there?
No, it's actually closer to carving sort of notes on rocks and then throwing them over the wall to people, and then they would throw the response over. Yeah, that's pretty much that. And then you would carve the wheel. That was after that, though. That was way after that. Chocolatey does still have an IRC channel. So
I don't know if anybody uses it, but it is there. One of the things that's still there. We had an integration between IRC and Gitter, but I don't know if that's obviously not there anymore.
That won't be there anymore. No.
So
for me, Gitter, I like the simplicity. I think I agree with Gary. It was very simple, and it did its thing. When they added threads, that was quite late on, when it was actually just before we transitioned away, but it was the mobile experience for me that was just awful.
It's fair.
So that kind of ruined it for me, but yeah. Okay, so Gary, I think to be fair, we've kind of answered the next question, so I don't know if you want to jump onto the one afterwards.
So yes, so we've spoken about kind of where you got started with Chocolatey and your first contribution in Chocolatey GUI, but I think it's fair to say that most folks would probably know you for your work in Box Starter, especially given the fact that while there was contributions from other folks, you were the driving force behind the V3 release that we've just done recently. So we kind of touched on it, but what was it that made you want to kind of step up and own's a strong word, but certainly drive the box starter experience? What made you want to step up? Was it just because you needed it to work, or were what interested you in box starter?
Well, I've been using box starter for a really long time, and I was totally hyped when Matt Rock basically handed over box starter to Chocolatey at MS Build some years ago. And was really hyped for that. But unfortunately, box starter development kind of slowed down, and I was really sorry when I realized that because of how box starter was created and how Chocolatey was developed, because I kind of tiptoed in it and tried to solve the issues, it wasn't really going to work, and I really wanted to like solve this problem so box starter wouldn't like die away when new versions of Chocolatey came out. I also used box starter at work, or still use box starter at work for a lot of things, and there are a lot of issues that have been resolved in Chocolatey like for a really long time that still were present in box starter because you used such an old version of Chocolatey internally. Also, there were like a couple of issues that only affected box starter because of how it handled the PowerShell host. For like in Chocolatey, whenever you install a package, you get a like separate PowerShell session for each package. And in box starter, up until version 3, you had like one session that spanned over all the Chocolatey installs inside this box starter package, which led to a couple of problems, especially when you did things like, let's say, install multiple fonts on a host, which is something that should be really easy, and use the Chocolatey font extension. It would just install the first font and then blow up because each and every package used the font extension to add a type, a font helper type, and because it used like the same PowerShell session, it just would blow up on the second package because it would try to add the type that's already defined in the session. And so there were like a couple of problems that only affected box starter, and there was ultimately no real way of solving that without like ripping out the core and changing the way how box starter interacted with Chocolatey. So yeah, I had a couple of talks with Paul and David also, of course. So David Gardner, the guy from way over the pond, basically on the other side of the planet. And yeah, then we decided how we could proceed with box starter, and I kind of volunteered to do the core part of how box starter and Chocolatey interacted.
Box starter used 0.10.7 of Chocolatey, the Chocolatey lib DLL. So yeah, that as you said, things that had been fixed many years ago were not present in box starter. So I think the work that you did on box starter V3, when we had a stream about it, or yourself and Gary had a stream about that not so long ago, and that's available on our YouTube channel as well in the live streams playlist. And I think it was, as Gary said, you did drive all of that work. And yourself and David have done great work in the repository in general. I'm trying to clean up some of the issues and respond there to issues as well. I've been notably absent from that. So yeah, a big thank you to you for all the work you did for box starter V3, and a big thank you to David as well for the help that he has given Chocolatey, and more importantly box starter for that. So yeah, and in case anybody doesn't know, the background that Manfred has is actually from the box starter website. So if you go to boxstarter.org, you'll recognize that background that Manfred has shown today. Okay, so we'll move on to the next question. I'll let the excitement build just for 1 or 2 seconds. What is an issue? What is a thing, if you like, a feature that you feel that is missing in Chocolatey or box starter that you would really like to see implemented?
So I'm just going to ditch the chocolatey part and talk about box data. So now chocolate is also involved. So I mentioned earlier up to the point where I was looking for a solution for a specific problem at work. I've been using Linux as my daily driver for a very long time, and I still use Linux as my daily driver. And I want to be able to remotely set up VMs, Windows boxes, Azure VMs, whatsoever, from my Linux box as a host. So basically, box data should be able to run in the PowerShell 7 session inside Linux and remotely control Windows hosts. So that's missing, and I'm working on it.
So touching on that a little bit then, so what's the sticking point? What's the major hurdle that you need to get over, if there is one that stands out?
So there are a lot of tiny things that have to be changed, because I know a lot of Windows guys just don't care about casing. So that's the beginning hurdle. So casing is important, guys, really. And then the Azure stuff depends on a couple of DLL modules that obviously won't load in Linux. So there's a couple of things that will need to be rewritten to use the proper REST interfaces instead of using the DLLs. But yeah, it's not so. Box data will not be able to install Chocolatey packages on Linux. Just you cannot use as of right now. You just cannot use Chocolatey on Linux. You can do things like ChocoPack and so on. There's a neat Docker container which allows you to do it. But yeah, sorry. Yeah. As I said, I'm working on it currently. Unfortunately, really busy, but I hope to get it done end of the year latest. So hopefully earlier than that.
Cool. So I think that kind of covers the next question as well to an extent. So the next kind of question was touching on where do you see box starter in the future? So that sounds like very much box starter being available on Windows and Linux, and I'm assuming Macs for using and running the installation of the Windows machines and controlling it from your daily driver machine.
So you and Rob will also be able to use it, yes.
So that's obviously a big undertaking. So is there any other lower hanging fruit that you're looking at box starter, or is that the next thing that you're wanting to kind of tick off the list?
There are a lot of open issues. So if there's a low-hanging fruit, easy issue, we will surely get it out first. And there are a couple of bugs that are still present in version 3 that will definitely be fixed first before the next major, not rewrite, but major change that will allow us to use PowerShell 7 as a host to use the box data commandlets. So just to be clear, just because box data is going to be able to load and do things on PowerShell 7, it doesn't mean that Chocolatey will be able to use PowerShell 7 as a base host. So that's a completely different thing. But yeah, just definitely looking in the direction, getting all of the small issues out of the way, and PowerShell 7 is basically the next thing that's going to come. Yeah.
Cool.
So just to be clear, when you said about Chocolatey won't be able to use PowerShell 7, I mean, we know, but somebody watching and not really familiar with Chocolatey might go, "Oh, I can't use Chocolatey in PowerShell 7." Yes, you can. What Manfred's really referring to is that when you run Chocolatey and you run the Chocolatey scripts inside the Chocolatey package, they run in a PowerShell Windows PowerShell host that Chocolatey runs itself. So whatever you run it from, PowerShell 7 or PowerShell Core, or as they probably just call it PowerShell now, or Windows PowerShell, it doesn't matter, because Chocolatey will do its own thing, but Chocolatey will not be able to run things that are PowerShell Core specific inside your package. That's just clear to. I think it's good to make that distinction.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so the next question is really about being a community moderator, and what I wanted to do was let everybody know what a community moderator does first of all, because a lot of people might not know. So whether you consume packages from a Chocolatey community repository or whether you maintain packages and you push them to the Chocolatey community repository, they will go through package moderation services, the package validator, verifier, scanner. They will then usually, depending on whether your package is trusted or not, I won't go into all the details, but by and large, packages then stop and wait for a human being to look at them. And that human being will be able to pick up things that are not easy to be automated. Sometimes, you'll look at a PowerShell script and you go, yeah, that doesn't look right. That's not going to do what we think it's going to do. Whereas an automated system will go, yeah, it's PowerShell, it runs, it works. So that's why we've a human involved to be able to make those decisions that automated systems can't. And that human moderator will look at that package and then we'll decide what to do with that based on guidelines and rules that we have for packages that, again, are not automated. So being a moderator is not just looking at a package and point and clicking buttons. It's looking at a package, understanding those rules, understanding the guidelines, understanding what really makes a good package, and also understanding what makes a good package for the community. So not all packages are submitted that are really suitable for the community. If I've submitted a package, it's really just for me and one of my friends. That's not really a good thing for the community, community at large. So that wouldn't make a good community package. So hopefully that kind of describes what moderators do, a very, very high level overview. And we have a number of moderators that are all volunteers. We have some of the Chocolatey team as well being moderators, but the vast majority of moderators are actually volunteers and don't work for Chocolatey, and they do that for the love of the community. So that hopefully sets the scene on what a community moderator is for everybody watching. But the question is quite a simple question now, is how long have you been a community moderator, Manfred, and how did you really get into it and why?
So I've been a community moderator since 2018 or so, I think. I might get into moderation a bit different than a lot of the other folks, because most of the other moderators did create a lot of community packages beforehand, and they provided like really good packages with a lot of downloads and high quality packages before they got like asked if they wanted to be moderators. And for me, back in 2018 at Chocolatey Fest, Rob asked me what I liked most about being a moderator, basically the same question, and I told him, so I really do like to look at other people's code, but you're wrong, I'm not a moderator. I just got like 2 or 3 packages up there, and yeah, I'm not a community moderator. And then Rob was like, but you should be one if you like to look at other people's code. And yeah, then I've been a moderator since that point. And yeah, basically, so yeah. What was the question again? What the most, how long? Yeah, how long? Since 2018.
Okay.
Shortly
And
after the Chocolatey Fest.
Okay. There was 2 points actually I wanted to pick up on what you just said. First one was that community moderators, there's no application process, although you can contact and say, hey, I've been in the community for a very long time. I understand a lot about it and like to help out. Is there a slot to become a moderator and look at other people's code, as Manfred said? But we tend to actually contact maintainers that have been doing this for a while and produced consistent high quality packages, and ask them if they would like to be a moderator. So it's more of an invitation than an application process, if you like. But as I said, that's kind of loose. If you want to do that and you've been in the community, well, then we're certainly happy to look at it. The second point I have totally forgotten now. Oh, that's what it was. Yes, no, I remember it now. That's another good point, that a lot of, some of the moderators don't have many packages at all. So to be, as I said there, if you've been in the community a long time and you know what makes a high quality package, is far more important than having 200 packages in the community repository. Gary, for example, I don't think you have any, or maybe you have 1 or 2 now, but you handed all of yours off some time ago.
So yeah, absolutely. My career, if you like, in Chocolatey one of the first things I did was maintaining packages. There were packages at the time that I needed, so I created the packages for them and maintained them. And I quickly decided or realized that I'm not the best at that side of things, so I started handing it over and let other better people maintain the packages, and I took over some of the other infrastructure side of things. So it was a nice, simple swap over. But yeah, it's fair to say that I still understand the concepts of what makes a good package, so I can still do package moderation, like you say. But I'm just not a good maintainer of packages. It's not what I do.
So I think they went off to the Chocolatey Community Packages repository, didn't they?
Yeah. So all of them, pretty
them,
much.
okay.
Any packages that people take off me directly, I certainly allow them to do that. But yeah, the lion's share of them went into the community packages shared repository on the Chocolatey Community GitHub organization. And cool. Kim and the other folks there now look after them for me.
Yes.
So
yes. And they do a great job.
They do.
And not just in your packages. Everybody's package. Okay. Gary.
So yeah, just kind of extending on to that then. So in terms of what Paul's described there, what do you feel is the most important role that a community moderator has with all things packages related?
Well, that's kind of tough question, but yeah, as a community moderator, you basically you look at other people's code, and they do have to have a certain quality, so they must be able to do the job at hand. But also the community moderator must be kind of forgiving also, because not everyone is a PowerShell expert, but or expert at Chocolatey. But now there's a lot of really good help we can link to and tell people, hey, have a look at these examples or this and that package of how things should be done. And basically a community moderator. So the most important role, besides them checking if there are duplicate packages, because that happens a lot. So there are a lot of, especially new maintainers, that put in packages for things that either already exist or are really so specific for their host setup that we just cannot. It's not applicable for the broad domain. So if you do create a package for, let's say, Firefox that does not only install Firefox but also mingle around with the default profile, put in a couple of files that are really specific for a certain setup, it most likely will not go into the community repository because there's simply no place for it. We've got, I don't know, Paul has got the numbers, close to 7,000 different packages in don't know how many versions, and there's a lot of things already there. And so a community moderator must not only look at people's codes in kind of a forgiving way, but also see that there's no duplicates of packages and that the package really is good for a lot of people and not just for the maintainer that put in the package in, if that makes sense.
No, definitely. That's definitely one of the things that over the years it's been preventing duplication, because for me that's kind of you're diluting the ecosystem at that point. If there's two versions of Firefox, and then which one do you pick? It needs to be the case that there's just one of each of them. And if there is something that's wholly specific to your own needs, I mean, that's where we would advise folks to create their own packages feed somewhere, whether it's feeds.io, whether it's MyGet, whether it's somewhere else. It can still be a Chocolatey package. It's just not consumed by everyone on the community. So there's definitely ways and means to approach it.
Or just a GIST, and you use box data to install the GIST.
That's a perfectly viable option as well. Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
One thing I use is for those specific packages is just a local folder.
Yep.
And just add that as a local source, and it can check that first. Manfred, just touching your point you were saying about the number of packages, and I'm just looking at the stats now. They're on chocolatey.org. If you scroll down on the front page, you'll see them about halfway down. So there's 9,551 unique packages in the community repository now, and 163,206 versions of those packages. And as Gary has pointed out to me in several days coming up, sorry, in the last several days, we have 1.972 billion total community package installs. We're almost at this 2 billion mark. So yeah, that it was at the 1 billion mark. I think it was last May.
It's I forget the exact details, but yes, it's
right
the speed, the time it took us to get to 1 billion. The next billion was much shorter than that.
Yeah,
so
that's just
that'll be covered in the blog post.
Yeah, it's just, so we'll be covering that in the blog post coming up. But yeah, it's a huge number of packages still. But as you said, yeah, and I think that the moderators are really diligent about it. It's not a common thing I've come across. There's there's 2 packages for this thing. There's not. The moderators are really diligent about making sure that packages that are being approved, especially new packages that are being submitted, don't have duplicates that already exist in the community repository. So our moderators are pretty fantastic. They do fantastic work, and we do really, really appreciate it. So our final question, and it's good because we're just about on time. We've got a couple other questions, but our final question, if you like, is you've been a community moderator, as you said, since 2018. Why do you keep doing it?
Basically because of the same reason I got into it. I really enjoy looking at other people's code, how they do things, if I can learn something from it. And also it's just enjoyable being part of the community. Yeah, just kind of like it.
Awesome. What do you enjoy about being a moderator, Gan? You weren't expecting that, were you? We didn't say we would ask Gary that question.
Well, no, see, the thing is, I remember some of the dark days of package moderation when it first got turned on. I refer to package moderation as both the worst thing and the best thing about Chocolatey Community Repository. Best thing, obviously, because it provides a level of security, resilience, reliability, all those things that go with someone moderating a package. But it also means that someone has to be involved and moderating those packages. So I remember when it was literally just me and Thomas Walter was the main moderators, and we were like the only people doing it. And they would get backed up. There'd be lots of them, all that sort of stuff. But like Manfred, I mean, it was it's part of it is internet points. Collecting of the internet points and being the person who's owning and doing all those things. There's a level of gamification to it, if you like, but part of it obviously is just keeping the community going, being involved in the community, and obviously consuming those packages as well. I at the time, and still am relying on those packages, so making sure that they're moderated and pushed through the onto the feed, it just makes sense. So no, it's one of those love-hate relationships with the moderation, but obviously more love than hate. So it's an interesting one.
Something that probably not many people realize as well, especially outside the Chocolatey team, is the amount of infrastructure that we host to make sure that the package moderation services run properly, run quickly, and make sure that they are not the blocker that gets, makes things be backed up. Occasionally things go wrong and, the queue gets backed up. But by and large, since the dark days, I would call it, is that Christmas where myself, you and Rob were technically on call because we had some issues. And we've never had issues like that since, because that was a big time where we said, this can't keep happening. And there was a huge amount of engineering effort to change some of those services to make them what they are today. And we're continuing to update, change, modernize those services, and we'll talk about them in the future when those things happen, but they're not too far away. We have a blog post coming out really soon about some changes to validator rules. I think we talked about that. In fact, we did talk about that in the last community stream. Sorry, was it community stream? Yes, it was. And we've got a new service that we're hoping to introduce as well to help with all of this. So the package moderation services are a lot of engineering effort. There's a lot of work goes on. There's a lot of infrastructure to make it is what it is. And we're continuing to improve, upgrade, change, modernize, whatever word you want to use it for all of that. So, so yeah, it's something that's not stagnant. So the next part that we want to ask, and we're going to take around 10 minutes for this, is if anybody's listened to Run As Radio, I think it's Run As Radio that does this, but it's Richard Campbell anyway. And what he does is he asks his guests a number of questions. I think it's 2 or 3 questions, and I always really like that bit. One of them is, what's your favorite text editor? I think one of those your favorite programming languages. So I really like those bits, and I like to hear what people's answers were. So I thought, let's take the opportunity and do our own questions and ask Manfred them. And I have a question in here that an old boss used to ask at an interview, just to throw people off a little bit. It was a little bit of a joke, and it became a little bit of a meme at the company I was at. The boss is sadly no longer with us. His name was Dave. So in honor of Dave, I have added in that question as well, and I'm going to ask that at the end. But Gary, do you want to start those questions? I've talked enough about them. Let's just start them.
Just doing them in the order that they're coming? Yes?
Yes, you do one, I'll do one. Yeah. So
okay. So Manfred, what is your favorite coding language and why?
Well, I think I've got 2 answers for this. So probably my favorite coding language, I'm not really fluent in, unfortunately, but I'm trying to get better, is Rust, because I really like how it does its things. Just toying around with it, not using it professionally. So that's like the second part. I really do like PowerShell for everything I do in automation. So professionally, I probably would say PowerShell, because a lot of build system stuff, automation, API invocation really is that easy in PowerShell, and it's like really readable code. It's quick to write, and yeah, so really do like PowerShell. And for personal things, I try to get better at Rust.
Good stuff.
Cool. Okay, so you write a lot of Rust, or at least you're trying to get better at Rust. So what IDE do you spend most of your time in, and do you love it or hate it?
I use Vim mode in VS Code mostly.
And is it?
I love it, really. I use it on my Chromebook, it's on my Linux box, and it's on my Windows machines also. So yeah.
I think, as Gary said, that is hardcore. Running that mode. There's not many people who know their way around the commands for all of that. So yeah, I'd certainly would. I tried to learn that.
Sorry, I did a short blog post on it a couple of, maybe 1 or 2 years ago.
Oh, okay. Okay, maybe need to dig that out.
Go and read that.
Yeah, I'll add it into the description in YouTube. Anybody? Okay.
So I'm going to ask what is the most important chocolatey community related question, right? So if you're ready, how does one pronounce this word? Because there are right answers and then there are wrong answers. So Manfred, how do you pronounce this word?
You mean this binary file you can use 7-zip to unzip it?
The magic and mystery is gone.
This container file that Chocolatey uses as base for all of it. Yeah, there are definitely 2 versions, and it depends if you're asking you or anyone else. So in Gary's opinion, it's Nupcake.
Correct.
Yeah. In Gary's opinion, it's Nupcake.
But what's your opinion?
It's really cool what you can do with it.
So yeah, so I just go back. So you've given what Gary's opinion is. What is yours? How do you pronounce? How do you think it should pronounce?
It's been on I think it's been a Zoom call with Gary when I first heard the term nupcake. And I've been talking to Rob. At this point, I've been talking to Rob like 1 or 2 years, or no, maybe 1 year or so. And it's always been new package.
Okay, so you're in the new package
I,
arena.
it depends. If I'm talking to Gary, it's nupcake.
If you're talking to, well, okay, if you're talking to me then. So Gary's not here. You haven't spoke to Rob. How would you pronounce it to me?
New package comes really easy to me.
There we go. So it's new package.
Ooh,
Sorry, Gary.
Darn. We need a scoreboard. That's what we need. We need a scoreboard.
We'll get
for
one.
these.
We'll get one.
Definitely have a scoreboard on the go.
But nupcake definitely sounds funny.
Funny, did you say?
No, I've never. It's like it's. I wasn't. I didn't think of pronouncing a nupcake before I talked to Gary. Just.
And to be clear, it wasn't me. So I think I first heard it from Damien Edwards on the ASP.NET team. It was in a talk that he did, and he said nupcake, and I'm like, that just makes sense. So that's what I went with. So that's where I started it. It rolls off the tongue easier for me, nupcake, as opposed to new package or NUPKG or however you wanted to do it. So
it might have to do with also your like geographic location in the dialect you're
possibly. Absolutely, yeah. So, but yeah, so most important question answered. So it's the wrong answer, but I won't hold it against you, and we'll get a scoreboard, and we can move on.
So final question, and this is in honor of Dave. What is your favorite chocolate biscuit or cookie?
So here in Austria, we do have a lot of Milka chocolate, which I really enjoy. But the actual answer, it's kind of cheesy, would be like the Christmas cookies my mother does.
Okay. They're not cheesy, the cookies, though, are they? Because they need chocolate
ones
and cheesy ones.
Like chocolate cookies.
Good stuff.
Okay, so I heard you saying you're going to send a box to us both at Christmas. I think that's what you said, Manfred. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Just
one with whiskey for you and one with Iron Brew for Gary.
Yes, there we go.
Even better.
He knows us too well.
Even better.
He knows us too well. So we're bang on time. That's amazing. It's as if we planned this, which is great. This has been awesome, Manfred. But this is the first interview I suppose we've done of a community member or of anybody in actual fact in any of these streams. As I said at the beginning, myself and Gary will do one of these I didn't say at the beginning. I didn't say that. What I said was off camera we should do one. Gary didn't that. So we will do one of these as well where we interview each other, I think, and maybe we'll have a community member on to do that. Maybe we'll bring Manfred back on or another community member who can help with that. That would be really good. So yeah, I just want to kind of wrap up now. Manfred, thank you for coming on. Thank you for taking time out. As I said, I know you're really, really busy just now. We really appreciate it. You were awesome today. And the question for the package, the new package question you answered was correct. Gary's wrong. We will get a scoreboard. I'll make sure I keep it. Because Gary will just not. Gary's yeah. He can't. He's a bad loser. Is effectively what I'm saying, and he will cheat. So I will have to keep that. But yeah, big thank you, Manfred, for that. Thank you to Gary as well. Thank you to all of you for watching us today. If you like the video, please subscribe to the channel and click that like button. If you didn't like it, give us a thumbs down. Tell us why. You can also follow us on Twitch as well. We will actually be back in a month's time, and I'm going to tell you the date. I should have prepared that. It will be the 15th of September. We don't have a stream on the 1st of September. So the next stream will actually be the 15th of September, and it will be another one of these community coffee break streams. We may do maybe me and Gary, or sorry, me or Gary doing a kind of interview style that we've done today. We may have another community member on. We haven't decided. This is really fluid, these ones, and they're much more kind of casual. Where we have a chat, etc. So thank you to both of you, and thank you to, as I said, to you watching us today. We really appreciate it. Any last words, guys, before we finish?
Not for me. No,
No?
just thank you very much for coming on,
Thanks.
Manfred. Been a pleasure as always. And
You're very welcome. Always great to talk to you guys.
Awesome.
there we go.
Okay. And we'll see all of you on the 15th of next month. Take care, everybody.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.